RetroDaze.
With the passing of the holidays, all that's left is a sometimes all too short winter break. When we were in elementary school, junior high, and senior high, the holiday usually started the day before Christmas Eve and extended to the day after New Year's Day. Once we hit college, those breaks became luxurious, often extending into mid-January. And now, as adults, well, it all depends on your career. That's all to say, we had to make the most of our limited time off, and there was no shortage of things to do, especially when holiday presents littered our bedroom floors and winter activities called from beyond the frosted windows. Let's gaze out those windows together and see what winter delights await us during this, our nostalgic winter break. There's a quiet magic to winter break. Once all the holiday hullabaloo is over, a cold quiet settles across the days like a freshly fallen snow. The whiz-bang of New Year's Day settles into a muffled and far-off sigh, and January's icy grip tightens. Gone are the cheery songs and cookie mountains. Forgotten are the holiday wish lists and lavish meals. What's left, though, is something just as momentous: free time. No other vacation feels quite like winter break, and if you have the foresight, a hot mug of cocoa with a nip of bourbon for the adults will help bring clarity to the subject.
Ralphie, we're waiting. Oh, come on, Mom. Right now.
Immediately, my feet began to sweat as those two fluffy little bunnies with the blue button eyes stared sappily up at me.
Come down here so I can see you better.
I just hoped that Flick would never spot him, as the word of this humiliation could easily make life at Warren G. Harding School a veritable hell.
Oh, isn't that cute? That is the most precious thing I've ever seen in my life.
He looks like a deranged Easter bunny.
He does not.
He does, too. He looks like a pink nightmare. Are you happy wearing that? Do you want to take it off? Well, tell the kid to take it off.
All right, you'll only wear it when Aunt Clara visits. Go on and take it off.
Take it off!
No matter how many extravagant presents we received for the holidays, there were always those filler gifts to round things out. You know the ones: socks, clothing, winter gloves, and yes, pajamas. Now, hopefully you didn't have any relatives as diabolically evil as Aunt Clara, but even if you didn't score a vibrant pink bunny suit, you probably still weren't enthusiastic about the new pajama set. Of course, that didn't stop you from wearing those pajamas, and during winter break especially, I'd find myself tromping around the apartment all day long, sporting my cozy flannel nightclothes. Heck, I wasn't going anywhere, and all my friends were at home enjoying their own vacation. Those Christmas pajamas that I wasn't particularly excited about became my official winter break uniform. And you know what? I may not have realized it at the time, but looking back, I really loved them. They were comfortable, warm, and seemed to exemplify exactly what it meant to have time off. And if your parents really wanted to wow you, they may have skipped the flannel altogether and went straight for the television and movie tie-ins. How about this set of Star Wars pajamas as a start? I don't know how I feel about the whole family wearing them, but I would kill for the Darth Vader PJs right about now. There were also sets depicting Garfield, Transformers, Mickey and Minnie Mouse, Snoopy, Wonder Woman, Superman, Pound Puppies, and so many more. The question wasn't so much would we wear our new pajamas, but what kinds of indoor activities would we engage in while wearing them? First on my list, though I know it'll be controversial, was reading. Nothing was ever quite as cozy and comforting as getting in my favorite chair with a cup of hot chocolate and the new Stephen King novel I got for Christmas. Outside, a snowstorm raged with icy winds, while inside I was piping hot with a sweaty fear of Pennywise the Clown. I have a whole host of such wintertime memories that always put me in the mind of Bastian reading his stolen copy of The Never-Ending Story. I remember feeling the same way as I departed on journeys of imagination through prehistoric jungles or unknown galaxies rife with trials and tribulations. If I wasn't reading a book, then I would have a small pile of magazines through which I'd endlessly turn the glossy pages in search of a new and exciting technology. Chief among those were the video game magazines. Nintendo Power, Sega Visions, Electronic Gaming Monthly, Atari Age, Game Pro, and so many more would litter my bedroom floor. Of course, comics were another essential reading experience, and no winter break was complete without a few superhero adventures. If I didn't get comics or magazines as actual Christmas presents, then you'd better believe I was using a portion of my Christmas money, which had arrived via the post office, stuffed into Christmas cards from distant relatives, to buy my own. The cold trek to the neighborhood comic shop was just another kind of adventure back then. There was something extra special about knowing we should have been in a classroom, but were instead wandering the icy streets. And I know that for every viewer who can relate to this experience, there are another 10 who think reading during winter break sounds like just about the worst way to spend a vacation. It's a good thing we have other gifts then to enjoy.
Jingle bells, Santa smells, Christmas really stunk. I got nothing that I like, my gifts were all just junk. Boxes full of clothes, CDs no one knows. When I wanted something for my Nintendo 64, Zelda's great, Turok 2, South Park would be fine. How about Rogue Squadron? That game should be mine.
Make up for a lame Christmas. Get the hits you missed on N64.
Mom and Dad, I'm so sad.
The most obvious thing I'd be doing during my winter break was playing with all the toys I'd received. The first week or two after the holidays was when our gifts always had displayed the most luster. Before long, the metaphoric new car smell would dissipate, but during that last week of December and first week of January, there was precious little else I wanted to do than play with my new toys. Video games especially got a lot of playtime. Remember now, this was during those illustrious years when not only did most of us only have a handful of games, but the games themselves were much shorter and harder than contemporary video games. The combination of these two factors meant that as much as we liked the games, eventually we would tire of them, especially if our meager skills prevented us from progressing past a certain level. That's why one of the best video game-related Christmas presents I had ever received was the Game Genie.
Yo, video game dudes, talk to me! This is Game Genie, Recollection, the awesome video game enhancer for your Nintendo Entertainment System. Attach it to most of your video games, Double Dragon 3 or Super Mario Bros. 3. You can go to any level, live forever, jump higher, make your own effects, and get radical firepower. Go to any level, jump higher, stay bigger, live forever. Game Genie, the radical video game enhancer.
Game purists might call using a Game Genie cheating, and, well, they're not wrong, but I couldn't give two licks about whether I was cheating or not. All I knew was that suddenly my sad and small game library was given a new life. Getting a Game Genie for Christmas was like receiving a dozen new games at once because it reinvigorated all those old titles you've gotten tired of. The cartridge attachment came with a little book of codes, and usually there'd be several different codes for each game, offering varied options like infinite lives, mega jump, super speed, infinite weapons, freeze timer, plus tons of game-specific options. In addition, there was an order form in the codebook for quarterly newsletters, which would add even more codes for games released after the first codebook was printed. Suddenly, I was an expert at notoriously hard games like Mega Man or Ghosts and Goblins. I'd enter a code for infinite lives and infinite energy, then finally play till the very end. Did it erase that feeling of accomplishment you'd get from practicing a game until you could beat it? Well, sure. But for someone like me who really sucked, it was a godsend.
Ready, set, let Radio Shack get your holiday off to a fun start with radio-controlled toys.
Wow!
For red-hot action, the Golden Arrow can't be beat. The four-wheel drive Wild Ranger kicks up the dirt in tough terrain. And the two-speed Arrow Buggy outruns the competition.
Look out for dinosaurs!
Radio-controlled toys from $9.95, only at Radio Shack, America's technology store.
Another absolute champion of holiday gifts was the radio-controlled car. Boy, oh boy, there was nothing quite like being able to race your very own car or truck around the living room. Heck, even if I ended up only getting one of the cheaper wired types, I always had a lot of fun with them. Sure, your Speedster was on a leash and it only had forward and reverse controls, but it was still loads more fun than walking the dog. Besides, when you got tired of that, you'd just move on to one of the other toys. Action figures, Rubik's Cubes, Etch-a-Sketches, board games, dolls, there was no shortage of things to play with.
It's a world of celebration, joyful Yuletide expectation, where peace and love are felt throughout the land. It's an M&M's chocolate candy season, moms and Santas know the reason. The milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hand. All the world loves M&M's, they're pure milk chocolate joy for everyone.
M&M's chocolate candies, the milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hand.
Halloween often takes over the conversation when it comes to holiday candy, but Christmas is no slouch in that department either. We could even say that the stocking was like Christmas's version of the trick-or-treat bag, overflowing with candy canes, M&Ms, Hershey's Kisses, Terry's chocolate oranges, Russell Stover chocolate-covered marshmallows, hard candies, and so much more. So, when we got tired of our new toys, video games, books, and magazines, there was always plenty of leftover holiday candy to fuel us through the remainder of our winter break. And we're going to need our energy because no winter break would be complete without going outside to play. It happened eventually during every winter break. I'd get bored of being inside. Luckily, I didn't live far from my friends, so we could all meet up on our bikes and plan out some adventures. If there hadn't been any snow, we'd play basketball or ride our bikes until our fingers felt like they were going to fall off. If there was snow, well, that would make things that much more fun. Snowball fights were always chief among our favorite activities, which paired well with building snow forts and rotten attempts at igloos that would inevitably collapse atop our heads. Of course, we weren't above also building a snowman if the mood struck. We were also lucky enough to have a particularly steep hill nearby, which we'd excitedly fling ourselves down with nothing but a thin plastic saucer sled beneath us. Later, into the 90s, snow tubing became a popular option as well, while the older teens often graduated to skiing and snowboarding. Eventually, I'd always want to get out of the cold and back to comfy indoor relaxation. Yes, that means more hot chocolate and, you guessed it, a few good movies. With the holidays firmly behind us, we could finally dispense with Christmas movies and move on to, well, whatever the heck we wanted to watch. While I'd love to say I spent my holiday break watching winter-themed movies like The Thing, The Shining, and Better Off Dead, the truth was I watched whatever was on TV. In that case, let's talk Saturday, January 5th, 1980. For our morning serving of cartoons, we could have watched Super Friends, Fred and Barney Meet Shmoo, and Popeye. Through the afternoon, we were hopefully enjoying all those exciting activities we've already gone through, but come that chilly evening, we may have settled in with Once Upon a Classic at 6 p.m. if we were younger, and Theater of Blood at 10:30 if we were a bit older. Although, to be fair, I would have found a way to watch that Vincent Price movie no matter what my age. Without a doubt, winter break, whether as a child, college student, or adult, has always been one of my absolute favorite times of year. Sure, it may be cold outside in some parts of the world, but it's also the only time of year I feel justified in being a little bit lazy. There are seldom outdoor chores to do unless it snows a significant amount, and there's no work to deal with. It's just me, the cold, and endless avenues of entertainment. How about you? Do you enjoy the winter break as much as I do, or are you more of a summertime kind of person? What were some of your favorite activities on that yearly break between the holidays and going back to school or work? You know, I'd love to hear about it down in the comments, and if you enjoy our content, please consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and maybe even activating that ubiquitous notification bell. It really does make a huge difference. Let's meet again next week to celebrate Yesteryear, right here on RetroDaze.
Clicky clacky.